But I don't get wasted.
Well, I start with the most obvious but also useful questions to introduce you to our friends. When have you started to create comics, and what were your favorite characters, and when has your passion become a work?
When I was very young, my father used to read to me before I could read for myself. He would read children's books to me, but he would also read comics to me. And he would read Tintin and Classics Illustrated comics, which are basically Moby Dick in comics form, or The Tale of Two Cities, or Great Expectations in comics form. But he would also read to me comics by R. Crumb, very underground comics. And he would read them to me, but he would leave out the swears, and he would flip past the pages that were a little dirty. So that those are my primary influences as an artist. And I began drawing my own comics when I was 10 years old, and it's a sickness. It's a malady that I can never separate myself from. You might say that it's a calling, similar to a priest, but it's not. It's a sickness, but I love it.
In the last years, you won many prizes as a new talented cartoonist. Some years have passed since the first in 1999. Has your style evolved during this time, and can you consider yourself as a grown-up artist?
That's a good question. Yeah, I'm grown up in that I'm aware that I'll never be the artist I want to be, and it pains me, but I also am grown up enough. I'm an adult now, and I understand that that's part of being an artist, is always searching. So it's actually it's like the snake with two heads. It's a snake that eats itself. No, don't use that metaphor. Bad metaphor. It's yes. To answer your question, I'm an adult now, a grown-up artist. I'm tired.
Is your style changed during the years, maybe in techniques,
yes.
Or
I used to
user colors?
I'll just say it plainly. I used to suck. I used to be horrible. I didn't know how to draw with perspective. I didn't know about anatomy. I didn't know about composition. I didn't know about line, the weight of the line. I didn't know about how to write the voice of a character. And I've tried to chip away at that huge pile, that mountain of learning. I've tried I'm mixing metaphors, but I've tried to climb that mountain little bit by little bit, because otherwise I'd get too tired.
Okay. To what kind of audience are your works direct, usually? You think, maybe? Adults or children, maybe it's difficult or not?
My work is definitely for people who are able to see the subtext in a piece of work, in a piece of art. I try to make them enjoyable for everybody that reads them. Adults, if the book is for an adult. Children, if the book is for a child. But always, I want to reward the reader that is a critical thinker. I want to reward the reader that thinks deeply. And there's many levels. I hope there are many levels to my work.
You draw many comics about real existed people, the French artists of Cubism or Houdini, but have you put something of you in these works, or did you try to be close to history at most?
I'm going to repeat myself for the question I answered prior to that. I hope that's okay. I've forgotten the question. Sorry. I'm beat. I'm tired. there's a scene in Lewis and Clark in which an Indian woman is about to say goodbye to her husband, a Chinook Indian, and she doesn't know if he's ever going to come back. And I have no historical record for the people of the Chinook tribe. And I made up a scene in which this wife, the Chinook woman, is saying goodbye to her husband to give the tribe's personality, to make them real. And I had to use an event that came from my own life, which was whenever I leave for a comic convention, or to Italy, or to California, or if I go on a long trip somewhere, my wife is very sad to see me leave, and she always sniffs my hair, which is the scene that occurs between the Indian woman and her husband. And so, yeah, that's me. That's my autobiography that I put into my work.
Talking about the last published work, Lewis and Clark, when did you get the idea for this story?
I'd always wanted to do a book about Lewis and Clark. I'd always wanted to do a book about explorers, about people who challenge themselves, because it's a very it's a good story to tell, because there's a conflict that's inherent to the story. That is, they're trying to find something. There's a quest. Lord of the Rings. This is my Lord of the Rings, but I didn't have to make any orcs or elves. And I chose Lewis and Clark because it's an adventure story, and it was so. One thing that never comes across in the history of Lewis and Clark that you learn about as a student in the United States is you never feel how dangerous that journey was, how their life was in danger almost every day. And the fact that they made it back is a huge, huge achievement. And I wanted to express how difficult a trip like that was, so that other people would see what an achievement it was, and not just think of it as a collection of names and dates and places.
Is it hard to start a new story on a white sheet of paper when it first designs or something?
If I had an ounce of intelligence, it would be hard, but I'm too stupid and too stubborn, and I just throw myself into it, not knowing where it's going to end.
What are the main difficulties of developing it?
The what?
Risk of lost in the story, or
if you just jump into a story. What are the risks if you jump into a story? A little dance interlude. Yeah. Quite all right. The main risks are telling a boring story that doesn't have a satisfying conclusion. I say that I jump into a story, but I jump into it in the sense that I have to know three things. What does my main character want? What gets in the way of my main character? And then I need to know the ending. And the question I ask for the ending is, my main character has to make a very difficult choice that will be the climax of the story. And the choice is, neither choice is good, but the choices are, one is less bad than the other. The example I like using is from Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back, where Luke's